Hello everyone, today I build a deck using Athena, and then I'm going to playtest that a little bit and show how I play the deck. I'm going to be making an aggro deck with her instead of stall. I think those are pretty much the only two. I found tempo doesn't work that well, and there isn't really anything to combo in this game yet. So, start off with the new deck. So off the bat, I put Hercules in almost every single Greek deck. I think he's just really good overall, especially since there's a lot of warriors that are going to be in this deck. I find having board wipes is very important, and he's one of the only ones accessible to us. The other one is Back to Dust, which is here. For Athena, she does really well playing units on the defense and then attacking with them the same turn you play them. This makes it so that the opponent can't play spells or anything on their turn that disable your units. So I like to stick with the warrior theme with Athena. So I throw in the soldiers and wherever the Scylla is. There it is. The Fearless Scylla, probably pronouncing that wrong, but he's a pretty good unit if it's not turn 1, because he can usually come out as a 2/2 for 3 faith. Then for the priests, Priest of Melee and Priest of Acropolis. I think Priest of Melee is required in any Greek deck pretty much. You can trigger him so often. And Acropolis is pretty easy to trigger in Athena, as you can play units on defense and win the defensive battles. After that, I've actually been running Hungering Cyclops in Athena for a little while now, and I found him to be pretty decent. He's a 4/2 for only 4, so that makes him pretty strong as long as you're able to use him, but I've been able to get him off pretty often. Then, for more warriors, we have the Skirmishers. He's really good on the offensive. He's not a great unit for defending, but he's able to hit pretty hard if he attacks. And Amazons. Phoebe's Amazons are really strong, and they deal a lot of damage if you can get them out. I put in the Pegasus. I think I have enough warriors that I'm able to actually get the Pegasus buff, so it's only 5 for a 4/2. And the Salian Cavalry. I'm thinking about not running this anymore in Athena, but it does pretty well usually. Koblos, I think, is required in any deck that is Greek. He's a removal, and it's a unit, and it's only 6 faith, so I put him in there. Achilles is also really great because you can play units on your defense phase, and then on your phase, you can play Achilles and attack with the units you played in both phases. Medusa, you're able to play her on defense, and then position her on your turn to prevent blockers when you attack. Strategos, I put him in there. I do put in units that have wing and center, and being able to play him on defense and buff those units is a pretty big buff, and the opponent almost never sees it coming. I'm going to make sure... I don't think I'm missing any that I usually put in, but... yeah, that's what I put in there. Until warriors get buffed, I don't think cavalry is that usable right now, so I'm not going to put them in there. Then one of the things that I actually run in Athena is Djinn. So I don't really have any spells in here other than Back to Dust. So the Djinn allows me to draw cards pretty quickly, and pretty much with no downside. So he's 4 for a 3/1. I think this is one of the decks that can actually run him. And I think just overall good utility. I put David in there. You can play David on your defense phase and kill one of their units, and a lot of people don't see that coming. I guess this is the final list that I think I'm going to run with. I really wish we had more better warriors, but this is pretty much all it is. Queue times have been taking a bit long today, but we should find someone here pretty shortly. I kind of wish they would actually add game music into the loading screens if that's possible. But pretty much the goal with this deck is to get a couple units out early without using the pedestal and use them to attack and defend. And then as the game starts to go on and you have more faith, you can play units on both phases and start to use Athena's pedestal pretty well. I think in the future I might take out some of the middle costs, add in more 6 and then 3 and 4 costs, just so that you're able to play 2 units per turn. So one of the best starts I've actually had with this deck is starting with a Vanguard Soldier and then putting a Phoebe's Amazons on either side of it, and that gets really strong quickly. For now, we're just going to have to start with the 1 Amazons turn 2. One of the other cool things about this deck is it allows you to actually mill out the opponent depending on how they play. That if they're a very stall type deck, you can stall in return and then just try and go for the fatigue win. So now I already have a pretty strong board set up on turn 2 here, and I don't think you can actually really do this with other leaders except maybe Poseidon. That was a pretty bad turn for him to play that. For him, at least. And this is why I run the cavalries. Some people say they're pretty weak, but I like them in most circumstances. Pretty much any of the units with rush are pretty good. That helps me, I think. Huh. Now I'm at a point my board state is a lot better than his, so I'm going to hold my units back just so that he can't summer heat them or do anything else to them. So I'll hold them for the defense and just attack with what I have on the board. Now if he does not attack and I'm not able to play units, that's kind of a card advantage in my perspective because I have a better board state. Now I have more cards in my hand that I can use later. So there's the attack. I can play units. Now I'm able to block, and I can play my Medusa so that on my turn I'm able to position her. So let's get a Pegasus out there. And now, see, I was able to play that Medusa on the defense and then position her on this turn, so now he can't block with that large blocker. I can pretty much attack with whatever I want. I think that takes a full nother temple too. Now in his position, he probably would have been better off playing 2 lower cost units just to try and get more units out on the board and more power. Hypnos is only 2 power, so it's not going to do very well blocking. I can probably get rid of these Amazons. Now, I don't really want to play units here because that'll get my Medusa out of line, but if I play 2, it should still work. So one of the things I could have done there is just saved the units for the defense phase, but I got the warrior next to the Pegasus to buff it a little bit more, and that's at least 4 damage going through to his temple. Now his board's at the point, if I draw the back to dust, I can back to dust and swing with later for lethal. Priest coming in a little bit late, but so that's another turn. If I play a unit, it's going to take the Medusa off of one of his units and enable him more blockers. Here you go. One of the cool interactions with Rush that you can use, you can attack with your left unit and buff the priest, and then you can play units with Rush and buff your priest again. That's something I don't see a lot of people doing, but you can also do that on your defense phase by blocking with a unit and then playing a unit using Reinforce and blocking again. That can trigger your priest multiple times. This will trigger my priest, and it opens up my left flank for the skirmishers again, so that he's on the side. Now, I'm not putting the Amazons on the flank, but I'm going to attack with the skirmishers, so it will be on the flank after this attack phase. But it's 3. I think that's lethal as is, unless he has a... I don't know if there's any spells for 6 Faith that would help him here. That maybe he has Thermopylae and Tactics. Also running the Djinns, if I play them, it helps me for that quest I have. I have the quest to play Death Stare units. I actually faced this guy earlier, and he's pretty good with Freya. And last time I tried going for a fatigue win, just because the game went that long, but it did not work out that well in the end. So I'm going to try and go aggro this time. It's hard with the Freya though, because even if you remove her units, they buff the ones next to them. I do have a decent hand here though, so let's see what happens. I'm playing Priest on the left there in case he attacks with Freya. I can boost the Priest by blocking with him. Yep. So actually for this, I'm going to let that through, sacrifice my fresh recruit. Now I'm going to be able to put the Priest on that left flank again by playing a unit. Now I get the attack and the card draw from the temple instead of just blocking the damage. And next turn I'm probably going to try for that other priest. Now I'll be able to hit for 3 damage and trigger the other priest I'm playing. Now, I'm actually going to only play the Vanguard Soldier in the middle here, and then try for this right temple again. If I get the attack through, maybe I'll draw a 3-cost unit that I can use on the defense this turn coming up. Unfortunately not, but that'll still help in future turns. Seductive Huldra is a good card, but it's so situational I almost never run it. It always seems to screw me over though. Let's just get rid of our center guy. Let's try and draw some more 3-drop units. I'm going to hold the Silai and try and use him on defense. Just to try and trigger him when I play him. Freya's at the point where she can snowball now though, so I'm pretty sure this game is lost unless he misplays. There we go, I can get the Silai trigger, and I'm able to block without losing a unit. I'm waiting, eventually he'll get one of his units up to the point where I can David it, but so I'm going to save for my defense playing the Vanguard Soldier and the Pegasus. So that'll actually give me 6 extra defense as long as I still have the Silai out. If he attacks left temple, I'm going to let it through just so I can David that Mud Snapper. Otherwise, that's going to be an issue later. Yeah, there we go. So I can get the Pegasus and the Soldier out. And then now I can David his Snapper and then attack with all the units I just played. I don't really like playing the Cyclops on my turn. I like trying to save that just so I can position it correctly. Or that also gives me 4 mana, I can play the Amazons now too. Oh, neither the Amazons nor the Cyclops helps here. So I'll be able to use this to just keep that time Leviathan from attacking next turn. He'll have to block with it. And I still have open faith to play the Cyclops if needed. So I'm going to get the Cyclops out so that on my turn I can play the Medusa and I'll be able to stop one of his units from blocking. Now we have guaranteed damage going through. In my opinion, letting your temple down to that health this early is pretty bad, because if I draw a board wipe, I just win. So usually you want to try and keep the temple up above the health of your opponent's hero's power, just so that they can't wipe and then attack. I'm gonna just try and keep that temple alive for now. That sucks. If I get the Medusa in front of the Knack, I can't attack with my... Actually, yeah, I can. I forgot about the weird rules with this game. So you can declare your Cyclops attacking, move it around the board, and it's still declared attacking. So I think that should be game there. Hey Jal, how's it going? I guess we have some new viewers here. I'm going to just go back to the deck so they can take a look at it. So for the early game, I'm running the Priest of Acropolis, Priest of Melee, and Vanguard Soldier. The goal is to get those out early, and then with Vanguard Soldier, you play units around it. With the Priests, you just try and buff them as quickly as possible. The Silai isn't that great for first turn, but if you have to, you can play him out there, and he still has 2 Endurance. After that, you're just trying to go for the Skirmishers and the Amazons. I use Jin. If you don't have other cards, he'll help to accelerate that card draw and hopefully draw you the units that you need. And other than that, it's just trying to position your cards correctly using the Warriors, the Pegasus, and that's pretty much it. I think we'll do 2 more games with this deck, and then we'll try making a fatigue deck. Yeah, I've been farming the daily quests for a while now. So I do have a decent amount of gold. he hasn't had turn 1s yet since I've been playing him, so hopefully he doesn't have a turn 1 again. So that's pretty good for us. I'm going to start out with the Amazons, just so that I can play a unit next to it on my turn again, so that it has the wing. If he doesn't attack, I'll be able to attack for 3 power. That's an odd play for a Freya, but I guess it works. Really odd. I'm actually going to throw a Pegasus out there just to get that power on the board. Now I'll be able to play a warrior on my turn to get that Pegasus up to 4 power. Unless he has you died. But that'll take up his whole turn. I'm going to actually play the cavalry. The other option was Kobolos targeting the Thosgrim, but the cavalry should at least clear out the fresh recruit, or if it goes through, it's an extra card draw for me. This is definitely not a typical Freya start, but I think it's good for us. We need to get rid of that fresh recruit. I think we might have the game at this point. We have our board state's too far ahead, so unless he has a board wipe, we've got it. At this point, I'm going to get an Amazons out on that left-hand side. And then on my turn... Yeah, on my defense, I'm going to try and play the Skirmishers, and then my turn, I'll try and play the Strategos, so that it'll buff the Amazons and the Skirmishers. Because also I want to hold those cards in case he does have a board wipe. I know that he runs the dragon. I don't think he can actually play a Time Legend next turn, because that'll clear his board worse than mine. He might be preparing for it. Just in case that, I'm going to hold back my Priest and that Strategos this turn. But I can't get a Medusa out there. I'm going to play the Medusa on this side, so that if he does have a Time Lesion next turn, if he blocks with the Raid Caller, his Raid Caller is going to die. Let's see if he does have it. Nope, Mud Snapper instead. He doesn't want to attack with the Smith just because his Smith would die, and that helps him when his units get killed. But that's to my advantage because I can double block here and buff the Priest. I'm going to try hitting with the Achilles this turn. Yeah, so Priest of the Acropolis is pretty cool. It's if you win a battle, so if it's an attack or defense, you have to win it. So you need to have more power than the opponent, but it'll boost your Priest by 2. And it works with adjacent units. So that counts itself in that, but it has to be 2 or more units, and they have to be all next to each other. So like right now, I could block with the 2 priests, and that would count. Or I could block with the Medusa and the 2 priests, and that would count. If I still had the Achilles there, if I blocked with the 2 priests and the Achilles, there's a unit in between them, so they're not adjacent, and that would not count for that. I'm actually going to let that through, just so that I keep my board state and I'll be able to attack this turn. So now this is another one of those weird interaction turns. So I can attack with my left, then I can play another Medusa on the left. So it still triggered my priest, and now I'm blocking his whole left side of the board. And I think that should be game. So that's how I know a lot of people have said Athena doesn't deal with positioning anymore. But if you're using the priest, positioning helps a whole lot with Athena. Now this will be the last game with this deck, and then we'll switch over to building a fatigue deck. So right now, I think this deck is fine for just playing casual or even in ranked. But then, if you're doing a tournament, I don't think you're going to be able to use Athena for aggro in the tournament. But if we get a warrior buff, which I think would be really awesome, so that we can actually play a warrior deck, I think Athena will become a lot more viable with the warriors, or even Ares. There we go, we got some Q sniping in here. There's that bug. I'm actually fine if you're still in my chat or watching the stream, you can stay there. I don't care if you look at the hand, it's fine. I kind of have to block that. If I don't block, he gets a very high power unit out already. We are off to a horrible start. So the problem with attacking here, so Suki's ability, whenever he summons a unit, if there's one other friendly unit with the same trait, my unit's going to lose an endurance. So if he loses this priest and he has another priest in hand, it's going to get rid of my unit. There's that second priest. Yep. So that situation, playing Athena and just saving her for defending might have been better. But I think it was worth the chance. I'm just going to save for my defense phase at this point. Now his priest is going to get an extra endurance, but that's going to leave his priest as the only unit on the field. So I'm going to play my Medusa out. Now I should be able to attack mid-temple with Athena to clear that priest off of the board. And I'm still able to play units on my defense depending on what he plays. I'm going to get that Soai buff right now, just so that I have him out. He doesn't have reinforce. Then I'm going to get one of the skirmishers out there too. Just so that I have more endurance on the board so that he has less of a chance of killing a unit with Suki. If I let that through, I would need to draw a Kobolos for that to be an advantage for me. So I'm going to actually block this. Let's just buff here. I'm going to go for the mid-temple because we have almost the same size hand. Side temple wouldn't be that helpful. And also, this gives me the opportunity to try and fatigue him if I can. buffing my priest a little bit here. Let's see if I can get another endurance for the priest. And then I still have faith open to play on my defense. Also, there's the question if Medusa is epic. I don't know if that means is it a good card or is it a mythic card in the game where you can only have one of. But Medusa is a... Yeah, so Medusa is not a mythic unit. You're able to have more than one of them. I'm just gonna get some units out here. I hate that. So I should have ended up killing the skirmishers there, but because it takes so long to play cards on the defense phase, my time ran out, and then it just picks one of your units for you, and it always picks the worst one possible. I'm going to play an Amazons on the left here. That'll open up my Cyclops to attack. So I'm going to go for him right now. Just to try and stop him from spamming that leader to the board. But he does have enough faith at this point, and I have to start to be careful because Japanese has a card Ring of Fire, and what Ring of Fire does is it'll take away an endurance from both of your side units and decrease their power, so I have to be careful with my side units here. But that costs 5, so he can't use that this turn, please. I'm gonna get the other Cyclops out here. Even if I can't attack or block with those Cyclopses, it's still a unit with 2 endurance that can absorb his hero's pedestal. I have never seen someone run that before. This is kind of the opposite of the Norse Fostgrim, where it gives all units +1 power. This guy gives units -1 power. I'm going to get a Medusa out on the board, and that opens up my Cyclops as a blocker. Let's just keep hitting this right temple here for the card draw. So I have more health than him, and I have more cards left in my deck, so I'm able to just draw cards now, and I can still get the fatigue win if needed. I'm actually going to let that through. And I'm going to get out my priest. And on my turn, I'm able to attack with the Medusa and the Achilles. Do I want to do that, though? I'm going to play the Achilles right now, just so that I have faith left over so I can back to dust next turn if needed. This is going to force him to either block with 3 units or block with his 2 big units. I'm going to double block here so I can trigger my Priest of Melee twice, and I'm going to trigger the Priest of Acropolis once. Let's see, I might be able to get another Acropolis trigger if this goes through. 2 units, it makes it so he can't block with the... And there, I'm now able to play my David. So I've been waiting on that for a while. It's been sitting there patiently. I can finally get it out. Actually, right now, I'm going to just go for the fatigue win. So he's going to draw a card off of this, but I'm able to attack him with my Athena this turn. And I'll save my David and now the Kobolos as removal for later. That might have been a bad play on my part, but let's see how it goes. This also prevents him at 4 health. He's not able to play it back to dust if he's running it. I'm gonna hit his Dreadwalker there. On my turn, if he attacks with just that 3 power, I'm able to play the Djinn and get a card draw. I think he definitely won this game now. If he has another ninja, that's game. I think it's going to be anyway here. Because I'm down to... one health on each of these temples here. If any attacks get through with a single unit of his, I lose because of the Priest of the Blade here. That was a misplay on his part, especially if he is watching my hand, because I am running the David. But that's going to be game on his turn anyway, just because he has the Wood Strider. So the Wood Strider has challenge, which means I can only block with a single unit. So he's going to attack for 4, hit one of my temples, and then the other one will die due to the Priest. Because now that we kind of ran a fatigue game, let's try making the actual fatigue deck. So for this, I'm also going to want priests again, even though I'm just going to be defending with them most of the time. Oops. So we definitely don't want something that says cannot defend in a deck that is only going to be defending here. I think Greek is way better. So the question was, aren't Norse with the card draw units better for fatigue? And they also have Fenrir. The Fenrir is a unit that says when you play it, it brings the other leader to the battlefield and it deals 2 damage to it. So that's pretty good for fatigue because you're damaging their leader. But I don't really like running that in Norse because they don't have as much defense as the Greek do. And the Greek have things like Stoic Spartan, which can hold off an entire board just by themselves for each defense. I really like running him in the Athena defensive deck, just because you can play him on the defense and defend with him. I guess I'm adding the Medusas just on defense. You're able to shuffle them around and then attack if you need to. Or they're just 6 for a 3-2 on the defense turn, so that's pretty good. Kobolos, he's your removal. Heracles, he's really good if they start to snowball, so he's pretty much a board wipe, especially since I'm running warriors. My warriors, even if they get that high, they won't be killed by him. Pytho is needed in almost every stall deck. She can hold off an entire board we're gonna... I don't know about Summer Heat. I don't like running it in a defensive deck. I'll just throw in a Helen instead. That gives me a unit. Because I'm going to want to be playing units on my turns anyway instead of the spells. I think we need some more lower cost units here. Just the 3. I don't know about Cursed Impling. I think he's the only other 3 cost we can really run in here. I guess we can throw in the CLI instead. Just for that warrior, so that we have the warrior with the Pegasus. Then just because it's a stall deck, we're going to want all the board wipes we can get. And then David. I don't know. I'm not going to run back to dust in here just because that damages you. And at 10 health, if I use a back to dust, I'm down to 6. And then even an 8 health unit, or 8 health leader, is able to survive the fatigue if we're matched. If we're tied in cards left in the deck. I'm going to throw in a unit here instead. I don't know quite what to put in here. I don't want to run that back to dust, but I don't know what to put in instead. I guess Cave Sirens, they already have reinforced, but it's probably good to have those in here just so that it resets the... It's kind of like removal. I might want a second one of those. I'm going to take out the Helen and run another Cave Siren just to test that out. I might want to put that Helen back in there, but we'll try it without her first. Now, my goal is to fatigue the opponent, which means I get their deck down to 0 cards, and every time they try and draw a card from the empty deck, it's going to deal 2 damage to them. So I got the question, Summer Heat and Wolfsbane not worth it. Wolfsbane is probably good. I might throw it in there, but I don't know what to take out yet. So I'm going to run the deck for 1 game, see what cards I like and don't like, and then I'll probably and maybe the Helen. Now, every time I don't have to play a card to properly defend myself, that's where my card advantage comes from. I'm not attacking, so I don't get the temple spoils, but I still get card advantage just from not playing anything. So here's where... In previous times when I've run this deck, I haven't used the Cyclops, but I do like him in here. Yes, it is situational, but I think you're able to pull him off and use him in most cases. Now, I didn't have to play a card to defend myself, so I'm getting card advantage from that. I think what I'm going to do here, I don't want to lose a unit quite yet for temple damage. So I'll get out my Vanguard, and then trigger Solai. So with my hand now, on my turn, on the defense, I'm able to play a Cyclops and a Priest of the Melee. So I can trigger Priest of the Melee at least once on that turn. Maybe even twice. Yeah, that's the first Priest trigger. And then we get a second. And at this point, just from defending, our board state is already better than theirs. If he attacks with 2 units here, I think I might actually let it through, just so that Odin buffs his whole side of the board, and it'll let me Heracles on my turn. That will make me lose my Cyclops, though. I don't want to do that yet. So for now, I'm going to get rid of the Cyclops just so that I can Heracles if I need to. And I'll also get rid of this Priest here. So it's just preparing for the Heracles. So hopefully he's going to attack my left temple with more than 1 unit. That will get his Odin buff. And I'll be able to kill all of his board but this guy. So he's not attacking the left, but we're still able to pull off the Heracles. So I actually can't put Pegasus out yet, because if I play Heracles, it'll kill the Pegasus. I'm going to just start with the Medusa. There's the Odin buff. Now I pretty much have a board wipe. I think we're at enough of an advantage here. He only has 4 cards in hand. We can probably go for the win just with temples, because it does not appear like he has a board wipe. If he had a board wipe, he should have just wiped me there. I think that's just game for us. I'm gonna get my Medusa in front of his Dark Paladin, just so that it can't attack or block. Then that should be lethal damage. So that's one of the other things, running a stall deck. Sometimes you're able to just stall until the opponent's out of cards, and then you can just win the game through temples. But you also have that just in case where you can fatigue them out. There we go, we got the Athena versus Athena. I do not know how this is going to go. This is my first mirror matchup using the fatigue deck. I've had a mirror matchup with the aggro version, and I usually win those. But this might be an odd one. I can turn up the mic a bit if you can't hear it. Is everyone else able to hear me? This is where having those Amazons as warriors would be very helpful. Because Amazons are warriors normally. I'm confused as to what he's trying to do. This is one of the things, a lot of people think Athena is weak because you can only play units on your defense phase, but even though they have reinforce, you're still able to play them on your turn, and you don't have to use that reinforce until it's actually advantageous. So here, he doesn't have enough faith to play units to defend now. I know that I can just attack. He might have a Wolfsbane drop, so I'm going to save the Priest. I'm not going to attack with the Priest, but I will attack with the Pegasus. I'll drop one of my Vanguard soldiers, just to get that Pegasus plus power. Yeah, so it wasn't a Wolfsbane drop he was holding for the Helpless. But now again, he doesn't have faith left to defend. So I'm gonna just keep attacking, see what happens. I'm gonna get a Medusa out there just so that I'm able to use that next turn. I guess he is able to back to dust here, but if he does, that sets his health down to 6, and I can still win the fatigue game if he does that. Now this allows me to get the Medusa aligned with his Harpy. I misplayed there. I should have attacked with the soldier and then played the Amazons. Just to buff the priest one more time. But still, I have enough of a board state that the only way he would be able to win is by board wiping me. And if he somehow gets a better board state after the wipe lowers his health enough that I can fatigue him. Attacking again. Get another Medusa out. You can only block with 2. I'm going to actually play Athena here. I don't want to get rid of my Medusa, so I'm going to play Athena just so that I guarantee that temple falling. I don't want to hit it twice because then I'm drawing 2 cards. I think we might... We're going to get close to winning this turn, I think. Just because he can't block with those 2 middle units. He can block... I think that might be lethal, actually. Well, we've had an odd couple games with the fatigue deck now. So I'm going to say 2 more games. Let's see if we can try and get at least one of them to be an actual fatigue match. Usually with fatigue, at least when I was doing it with Diadco, you have to pay attention very carefully to how many cards are left. And you have to determine like whether you're going to draw a card that lets you defend the next turn or not. And just figure out how much damage to let through to the temple. It's not about fully blocking the attacks, it's about figuring out when you can let their attack go through and damage your temple so that they draw a card. So we're against Odin. Hopefully he'll be a little bit more aggressive and I'll be able to try and fatigue him. He's starting Doubtful Monk, which means he's probably going to drop Odin. Hopefully he's going to play Odin and then attack my mid-temple. Because that allows me to attack his mid-temple or even Odin. And it'll get rid of his only unit. There we go. I'm going to let that through, just because now his unit's at 1 endurance. And I can attack and just get rid of that unit now. So if he blocks, he loses the unit because of the endurance. If he doesn't block, I hit the middle temple, and the middle temple makes him kill it. And also at this point, I have the Amazons out, and they're able to fully block Odin's attacks. We're going to get a Priest of the Acropolis out. So this is another game I think we're going to be able to win just through aggro instead of fatiguing. But the Odin does start with less health than Athena, so I think I should have 2 or 3 card draws that are safe before I have too little health to fatigue. So now I can't let that through just because it's an Odin. But the issue is, I can't trigger Priest unless I defend with both of my 3-power units. And I don't really want to do that. I want to save one to attack with. So I'm going to just tie the block here. It doesn't trigger my Priest, but it still prevents him from attacking, or getting the attack through. Here's where the other version of the deck is a little bit better at the aggro, just because I have things like Stoic Spartan, whereas in the other deck I have the units with Rush and I would have been able to attack with them that turn and trigger the Priest. If I was going more on the defensive side, I would let him trigger Odin more often, just so that I can drop a Stoic Spartan and not let any attacks through. But at least we're going to get to trigger the Priest this turn. I messed up there. I played him on the outside. I should have played the Priest in between the Amazons and the Kobolos, but we'll get through it. So here's where Priest of Melee shines in Athena. I'm able to get 2 blocks off on my left-hand side here, so I trigger the Priest twice. Now I have a bigger attacker when it's my turn. I'm going to play my other Amazons just to get it out. Then on my defense, I can still play the Cyclops. And I have not been attacking with this Amazons because I'm going to try and get it back out onto the flank. Here, I'm going to play my Cyclops. I'm going to actually get rid of my Priest just so that I get that Amazon back on the flank here. I think that's probably game just because he doesn't have any cards left to play in his hand. Now I'm going to play my Vanguard Soldier here. And I can get rid of my can attack unit just because I'm going to try and attack with everything this turn. I can declare the Cyclops attacking because he has a unit across from him, and then I can proceed to play another unit. So he has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defense. And no faith left, so that should be game. I think I have time for one more game here. Maybe we'll try and get that one to be a fatigue game. Hopefully we're against a more aggressive opponent. Or even just another control or fatigue deck. Yeah, hopefully we get to actually show off that fatigue win. But if it doesn't happen, I guess it just shows that Athena is usable as an aggro deck in ranked and casual at least. And hopefully it gave some of you ideas on how to build it for yourselves. I know I definitely run a couple units and other cards that many other people wouldn't run, just because that's how I play. It fits my play style. And I end up running all of the units instead of spells just because, again, I prefer to run it that way. And I think it's better either use aggro to win or switch over and fatigue. With spells, you're kind of stuck one way or the other depending on which ones you put in. So we're against an Amma here, Matarasu. If the first unit she plays has a unique trait on her side of the field, she gives it an additional endurance. So she makes pretty beefy units and then tries to buff them with the left temple usually. There's that left temple. I know she's almost guaranteed to attack, so I can save this until the defense phase, just in case. They were at 5 mana, and at 5 Japanese can cast Ring of Fire, and I didn't want to expose my units to that at first. Okay, now I can play the Amazons and defend with it. And now on my turn, I'm going to get out the Spartan, just because I have the option to attack with him if I want to. And I'm going to attack left temple here to try and keep my Amazons alive. There's that Ring of Fire, so I'm definitely glad I held that Amazon's back a turn. And we're going to buff that Amazons again. So already I'm one card behind the opponent, but they have 3 less health, and each card is worth 2 health. So if they attack my side temples at all, I have the advantage again. I'm going to get out my other priest, and then I'll hold off on playing other units, just that on the defense I can play the guard or the Cyclops. And I also get the extra priest buff. It appears they missed the Spy Disciple triggers, so Spy Disciple could have reset my priest's power. And then they probably should have used the Fox on this Spy Disciple because it has more endurance. I'm able to fully block this just with the priests here. And I'm blocking with the priests next to each other and not the Amazons, just because it lets me trigger my Priest of the Acropolis. And now we'll try for the left temple. Just attacking with those adjacent units, maybe we'll be able to get off the Acropolis trigger. And just build up our side of the board. So here we're not able to get an Acropolis trigger unless we block with 3 units, but I can at least stop the attack from coming through if I block with both of my left, or I think it's going to be better to just let that through, and I can use my Cave Siren to reset the Priest of the Sun's power. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to clear my board of big units so that I can play the Heracles. He has 10 faith next turn, so he's probably going to be able to play a big unit, and I want to be able to clear the board after that. Attack there. Now, when my turn comes around, I can play things on my defense and then play the Heracles. Yeah, there's that other big unit. I am glad that I cleared for that. Now, I'm able to block this fully if I play one of my Cyclopses, but I will lose it. That's going to probably be the better play here. So I'm going to block with the Cyclops. And then I'm going to lose it with the Heracles, but I think I should still be fine. As it does leave me in a much better board state, and I have a much larger hand at this point. I'm just going to try and knock down the endurance of his larger power guy, so that if he does block, it's going to kill that unit. Now, I'm able to attack for 7 if I Cave Siren my unit. I think that is probably the better play here, because attacking with 7, that forces him to either let damage through or block with all of his units. And it also prevents lethal damage, so he does have to block at least some of it. I'm going to save that David back. Enough faith for the David, just so that if I have to, I can play David on defense. I think at this point, if they board wipe, I'm going to win, just because I have the better hand right now. So I'm going to play as if they don't have a board wipe. And I'm just going to drop all of the units I can this turn, just to bring that dragon down at least. Now that's the thing I said earlier. If my leader has 2 power, you do not want to let your last temple go down to 2 in case I have a board wipe. I'm going to just block this so that he doesn't get a card draw, because I want to keep him with as little cards as possible at this point. And he is forced to block from now on, pretty much. So depending on what both of us draw from now on, I should be able to win this matchup. That forces him to block with 3 units. That'll kill one of them. Or 2. Now this actually allows me to win a defense here. If I can win the defense, then that kills those 2 units. So that allows me to play a troll, or the Cyclops, and attack with it. So now I can declare that Cyclops attacking. And actually, I think that's game. That's definitely, I was able to win that just solely from being able to play my units on the defense and then prepare them to attack on that turn. That's why I feel like Athena is very strong. It's just a little challenging to play her. She might need a couple more units to make her a top tier deck. I'm going to try one more game here. Let's try and get the fatigue. But this is the last game for the night. Next time I'll have to try and play some music in the background, especially for during these loading scenes when the game doesn't have sound. So this is the same guy who was playing Freya earlier. Now he's using Poseidon. The Poseidons usually either play heavy aggro or tempo and control-y. So maybe we'll be able to get a fatigue game out of this one. And against the Poseidon, I actually want to use Athena's pedestal a lot more often, just so that I'm able to block with the units instead of them getting exhausted. Now, if I played that priest, he'd be able to exhaust the priest, but now he's only able to exhaust the recruit. He's still going to be attacking for 3 if he does exhaust it, though. So I'm going to get that priest out this turn. Then hopefully I'm able to get a double block. So I'll be able to block for 5 if I get the Cyclops out. Otherwise just 3. Or he's only attacking with 2, so that allows me to use the Amazons and still trigger the priest. trying to fatigue a Poseidon, it is pretty hard just because of summer heat. So I am vulnerable to that, but as Athena holding back mana, or Faith, I should be able to still play defenders even when he uses summer heat. We're getting everything out of his hand. Here's where that Cave Siren is important. You should probably run Cave Siren in almost every fatigue deck. And we got lucky there. His Death Stare unit hit his own unit. Now, even if I don't block this turn, if he attacks, I'm probably going to just drop the Medusa. Or this is a good opportunity to drop the Cyclops, just so that I have a 4-cost unit out there, and he's not going to be exhausting my Priest anymore. And also now that's a 4-power unit, so it's not susceptible to the summer heat. I have pretty good card advantage at this point, so I'm going to try attacking his mid-temple. That's going to force him to block with 2 units, or let damage through and kill one. Now, I don't want that damage getting through, because that'll give his Priest an endurance, so I do have to block this. And then just in case he has another Kobolos, I think it's time to get rid of the Priest. Because I don't want to just waste that unit by not using it. And on my defense phase, I'm able to get 6 extra power for defending. That can't be exhausted because it's sitting in my hand. So because the Pegasus costs more, I'm going to get the Pegasus out this turn, and it's a static 3-2, whereas I have to keep the Amazons on the flank. So I'm going to get that out there first. And just to put some pressure on him, I'm winning in fatigue right now, so I can get some temple damage in to try and buff my hand. That's weird he blocked with 3 units there. I guess he's trying to kill that Harpy sooner to get another Hypnos trigger. That sucks, my board's full, but he might end up actually killing one of my units this turn anyway, so I'll be able to get that Kobolos out and knock the Hypnos off the board. That we're actually hoping for a removal on our side this turn. There we go. We got it. Now we're able to get the Kobolos out and kill the Hypnos. Let's clear some board space here, just so we're able to play units. I'm pretty safe attacking temples now, just because I have more cards left. And I'm not going to want to play units right now to keep the Medusa locked with the Harpy. Because Harpy is going to exhaust my fresh recruit. I want to keep the fresh recruit just for that. Let's see, if I get these out, if I let that attack through, I'm able to attack for 1, 2, 8. I'm going to defend that here just to prevent him from drawing a card. I'm going to go for the temple kill here. If I attack his leader, he just might not play him ever again. And I do want that card draw. Now if I let that through, I have extra units to attack with, and I can actually use Heracles on the Siren. I think we're going to do that. Now, hopefully he isn't holding it back to dust, but if he is, that's just going to accelerate the fatigue. And I am going to want to get rid of that fresh recruit now, because Heracles is a warrior, and if I get the Pegasus next to it, it'll buff my Pegasus. So it is to my advantage to get rid of this fresh recruit now. Or he does it for me. So that'll bring his time legend up to 8. But I don't want him to get the card draw, so I'm going to block this just so that he doesn't get a card draw off of that. Now, neither of my priests has reinforced, so I'm going to drop them right now. And he needs to get rid of my Spartan before he can attack with the time legend. By doing that, he prevented getting the right temple trigger to the time legend. So I'm tempted to just let it through whenever he attacks with it, just to kill it off from attacking twice. Yeah, I'm gonna get another unit out, but I'm letting that through just to knock it down to 1 endurance. Nice. Except that does not work against Athena, because I can just move it around. So his dilemma right now is he wants to attack with the dragon, but if he does, it's going to die, so he's going to save that. But that does allow me to win my block here and buff both of my priests. And he already has time legend out, so there's no disadvantage to attacking with all these because they have 2 endurance. And I also now have board space for extra defenders. If he attacks with his priest at this point, I'm able to block with the Spartan and remove it from combat, unless he exhausts it. But even if he does attack, I'm able to win a defense and buff my priests even more, so I'd be able to swing with 10 with those priests next turn. Let's just buff one of the priests. Let's see, if he buffs that priest one more time, I'm able to use David on him. And it's looking like this might go to an exhaust, or a fatigue. I'm going to block that just so that I'm not taking temple damage. And I think I have a pretty good setup now with the Spartan in my hand. He doesn't know that I'm holding that. And that's able to remove his attackers from combat. If he even attacks with them. I'm just going to let this through so that he's drawing extra cards now. Just to fatigue him quickly. He's probably caught on to that by now. So he's no longer attacking my right temple. I think we still have a Pytho left in our deck. That'll negate one defense. That's one turn where I don't have to lose units to defend. I can't play this guy in the center because of his Medusa there. I think I'm going to get him out on the board and let this through on my Silhouette here. There's that, finally the Priest of Melee trigger, so I'm able to David it now. Now I can actually block for 6 this turn. It would have been ideal to block for 5, but I didn't have a way to set that up, and I didn't want to use my Spartan just yet. He's pretty much stuck just attacking my mid-temple now. If he attacks the right-hand temple, he's going to be drawing extra cards. I don't want my temple to die quite yet. I'm going to just block here. Now this is interesting. I can play the Medusa here up against the other Medusa, and then attack Poseidon with Athena. But that doesn't let me use my Spartan. And that makes me vulnerable to Summer Heat, so I'm going to hold off on that. If he continues to play Poseidon, I might be able to do that later. So we're able to just block with Spartan here. That prevents the leader damage from coming through. And it just holds us off for another turn. I can actually board wipe here, but I'll hold off on that still also. I'm pretty sure we win this. Even with another Summer Heat, he's only able to take down one of my temples, and he only has 2 turns left. So actually, if I let that through, I win. Maybe that was just his way of conceding. So we do have that achievement to get a certain number of leader kills, so I'm going to try for that. But even if this doesn't go through, I still win just from him drawing a card on his turn. Yeah, there's the board wipe. I think that counts as me getting a leader kill, hopefully. But that's it for tonight. I guess that does kind of count as the fatigue control win. So we did get one game like that. Hopefully the deck building and the gameplay helped. But that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching.